Hey guys, Steven here with 501 Parts. Got a 2005 Rhino here today. Just kind of want to go over the Rhinos are still pretty good machines. They're started making the Rhino in 04 and stopped making them in 07, 08 time frame. The 660s, the 450s. They're really cool machines. You can still find them at pretty good prices, and they still make you a good farm machine. A few upgrades you can beat around in them. They're really good. They'll last you a long time. They're pretty easy to work on. I want to do a short video here on, as far as buying a used one, kind of what you would look for, kind of a few things you would check for on them before you go and spend your money on them. You know, around Arkansas where we're at, I've bought some for $2,500. I mean, and I've seen them go upwards of $4,500. You know, depending on what condition they're in. But let's go through the video here. I'll kind of start at the front of the machine here. You can see this one's kind of been used a little bit, right? Got the old style buckshot mutter lookalikes on it. So plastic's faded. I've heard boiled linseed oil and heat will actually do the trick for the plastic. Have not tried it yet. I actually just read that recently. I'm gonna try that. If I end up getting one with the faded plastics. But what I do is I start, I kind of start up front here, check the wheel bearings, kind of go back and forth with the wheel, make sure your wheel bearings. Just another price haggling points. A lot of this stuff I'm talking about is just price haggling points. Like if I found a wheel bearing that's bad, I'm not gonna say, I don't want the machine. It's just too far gone. You know, a lot of things on these things you can fix pretty cheap, so if wheel bearing's bad, I might make it seem like it's the end of the world, but in reality, I'm just gonna go buy a $10 wheel bearing and probably gonna just fix it myself, and handle that problem. But these wheel bearings, they feel pretty tight. Look in here, look for your axles, boots. Make sure your boots are not torn. Again, kind of see there the axle. Make sure your ball joint, the boots on those aren't torn. Just again, another price haggling points. I'll pop the hood on this dude. Two-man operation here almost. There we go. So looking under the hood here, again, ideally there'd be some fluid in here, and this one's bone dry. Just another indicator of how the owner might have maintained the machine. Check the coolant in the radiator, nice and green there. That's what you're looking for. You don't want to see a bunch of brown gunk up in there. I'll get that on later. So again, the boots, make sure the boots are good here on this side. You can kind of look at the rotors. It's kind of hard to see the brake pads, but you can look at the rotors. They look really scarred up. Really deep grooves in them. I've seen where the brake pads wear away so far that the actual caliper itself, the pistons on the calipers, are actually what's stopping the machine. Not good. So you basically rent your caliper and possibly the rotor. This machine looks pretty good underneath here. I don't see any major damages on the bumper. I mean, it looks like it hadn't been pushing around cars in a junkyard. You can check your brake fluid here. Low, but you deal with it. And the guy tells me this is a 660. I'm thinking it's a 700. We're looking at where the air cleaner's at here. So I would check your air filter. It's got some oil on it. Doesn't look too bad. There's no squirrels or mice living in there. It's definitely a good thing. Something to check on there. You kind of check and make sure there's been no water inside there. You can usually tell when they've been swamped. Not a good thing. The wires, they don't look like they're too chewed up. I can see some crimp connectors in there where it looks like somebody added some accessories, added a horn here. Looks like maybe some lights or something at one point that ran up here that they've, the wires right there. Yep, they've added turn signals you can see here on this one for street. Just gives you a general idea how it was taken care of. In the battery box here, you can kind of see it's probably hitting you know, in a whole lot. Looks like they've done some work to the starter solenoid here. You can see 2 different fuses. There's a 10 amp, 15 amp, something to look at. They've been in here, and you know, it's the little things. You know, I'm gonna hook that back up. You know, I like to keep my battery in where it needs to be if I turn upside down. So the fuses, you can see relays here. They've been in here messing around a little bit. It's a relays. Tool kit still there. Pretty rust free. It's a good thing. I don't see any mud in the battery box or anything. There's a lot of dust and dirt, but not a whole lot of mud or anything. So I don't think this machine has been underwater, you know, or anything, you know, in a whole lot of mud. It just looks like it's been in a really dusty environment here. So yeah, I mean, the front of this machine looks overall, the plastic's not busted. You know, moving on to the cab here. The doors, usually these are broke. These here, just another haggling point. You know, check, you know, display. Is the 4-wheel drive switch locked up? This one's a little bit, you know, almost. It's a little bit stiff there. So just another haggling point there. You know, make sure the floorboard's not busted in. You can climb up underneath the machine. You know, give it a good look. You know, it doesn't look like it's been drug a whole lot on, you know, on anything, which is a good thing. A couple things in here. We'll shut this back down. Yeah, we've got a windshield on it, roof, that's a plus. Now there's a turn signals right here. They've added on here. Looking around at the black, you know, the back of it. I mean, the plastic is faded. You can see right here, these bearings again are good. That axle right there, that's gonna give you some problems. This is another, you know, I'd probably it'd be just as cost effective just to replace that whole axle. Yeah, I'm gonna let the bed up here. Bed don't even want to let up. There we go. Get the bed up finally. I think it's been let up in a while. Same thing. Look at that rotor right there. Make sure, you know, you can see a little bit of meat on those pads. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's some meat on them. That's a good thing. They're not wore down to nothing. Yeah, this is definitely a 700 here. Guy didn't know what he really even had. Looking at the bed, I mean, it looks to be in good shape. Axles over here, boots looking pretty good. And you know, bearings feel pretty tight. You're missing a stud there and a lug nut. You know, again, you can see the meat on the caliper there. Some meat left. Another thing to check on these is the rear diff mount. Check the rear real good. Somebody's, you know, nobody's pulled. Doesn't look like they've snatched any tow hooks through the metal or hooked around the beam here. And the, you know, the bracket on the diff, make sure the diff's sitting in there straight and not, you know, cockeyed in there. It means they've been being pretty rough on the machine. Sometimes the diff mounts will break on them. So this one looks pretty good, you know. Tail lights are all in there, not busted out. Pull out the cover here. Alright, we got the cover off here, the engine. That's where you get down to the meat and potatoes. You want to, first thing, you check the oil. This oil is definitely needs a good changing. See how black it is? Definitely needs changed. Shifter linkage looks to be Okay, you know, a lot of times these Rhinos, they'll either go in reverse or they'll either go in forward or low range. You make sure they'll go in both. You know, the shifter linkage is very touchy on them. This mechanism tends to wear out and you can't get it. There's a fine, really fine couple thread adjustment between reverse and low range. So just check that. I would recommend driving it with the engine shroud off, just to get a good sound of the motor. Especially the one-way bearings in them like to go bad. If you're going down a hill, find you a good hill, get up some speed and just let off the accelerator and let it just engine brake. It should engine brake down to almost to a stop. If it engine brakes for a little bit and starts freewheeling and just makes an awful racket, then your one-way bearing is probably bad. Cheap part, just time consuming to get to. You got to pull the other side off over here, and the clutch housing and that kind of stuff to change that. Make sure to get another gasket and all that. But just another point of haggling if you want to do the work yourself. Everything looks to be okay. Let's see. Got a little bit of leakage right there. You can see something to kind of look at where that might have came from. Blow by, could be. Don't know. I'd have to run it. I don't actually have the key to this one. This is not my machine. This is one of a friend of mine's. He says he's got a 660 out in the parking lot. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go do a video on it, and it's a 700. But so yeah, you can see all the fuel injection harness in here. Just take a good look at that. Check the e-brake, make sure it's good. Oil filters down there on the front. Don't see a whole lot of mud and rocks and stuff in here. I mean, this machine hadn't been took care of awfully. Moving around to the other side. You don't be able to look at your belt, but I mean, you know, you can usually tell. Get it, kind of get it to bind a little bit. Get on the hill, put it in low range. These Yamaha belts usually last for years. They're one of the best belt systems in my opinion, and I don't see a whole lot of belt problems, especially with the machine, you know, with these smaller tires on it. But that's just a general overview. Check your lights and everything, just to kind of give you an idea of things to look at when you're buying one. If I missed anything, leave it below in the comments. But I would definitely, you know, as far as mileage and everything go, I don't have the keys to this when I turn it on, but look at the display. You know, I've heard of people getting 10,000, 20,000 miles out of these buggies. You know, I start looking at them real hard, in my opinion, when they get 3,000, 3,500 miles on them, depending on the condition of them, and, you know, one owner, two owner, you know, and so forth. And, you know, depending on how the owner talks, if he's taking care of the machine, I'm not worried about it too much if it's got 5,000 miles on it. But if it's got 1,000 on it and I see snorkels on it and everything else, and 30-inch outlaws, and I start to wonder where the machine's been and start looking at it a little bit deeper. This one's been used and it hadn't been washed a whole lot, but it doesn't look like it's been abused. But thanks for watching our video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you like what you're seeing from us. All right, have a good one.